Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to Reviews by ZH. This is my part one of the year for 2023. I'm breaking it into three parts. That way I can highlight more stuff when I review it and grade it. Right now, this is the stuff that I heard all the way up until April 1st of this year. So everything you'll be hearing in part two will be from April 2nd to August 1st, and then from then on, August 2nd to December 3rd. My birthday will be part three. Anything that I hear after my birthday will go towards early 2024 or just be stuff that I will just talk about separately. But that's the way I'm breaking it down this year. So, let's start off with how many S tier albums I ended up having under this part. And it ended up being 29. Stuff that did not make it into the top 10 or top 5 EPs that I want to highlight real quick. One Step Closer with their EP, short little 3-song one. Heaven's Gate EP. Omarosa's switch up to that 80s synthwave style was fun. Fell in love with country with Kelsey Ballerini's Divorce EP, the EP about her divorce. And then Luke Combs was the 29th ranked S tier, and it was the second best country project that I heard so far this year. I will be having more country, probably in the other parts for sure. And then, so counting up, Meloris with their EDM electronica style album. It was a throwback to Icy Stars. Was great. Then it ends with their EP, Christian core, old sounding Memphis Mayfire ish, like their first album where Matty Mullins I don't think was involved. That's the 5th ranked EP. Sentient put out a really good 9-track melodic metalcore ish in the vein of Currents style. And then Solence put out that post-hardcore new style that is more what they call emotional metal now. Hope Dies Last. I'm focusing on the fact that they put out song after song and they made an EP that came out this year. It could be expanded into an album. I'm not going to end up grading that. If that happens, it'll just be where it is right now for part one of this year as an EP. Very solid, very good, electronic style, much better than Meloris. And then the Cohen Music / CMD 81, both that piss core sounding stuff, put out a better EP than they did albums last year for sure. Because with piss core, there's only so much I can take, and EPs are the best way to get to me to get a better grade, and they did end up getting a better grade. Poser, also another electronica style EP that quite literally is what Rise Core, that Confide Rise Core, that just electronica tinged stuff that just is nostalgic to me with that Icy Stars, but not quite there. Acres did another great emotional metal core sound, like in the vein of Bad Omens. Stepped up better than what Bad Omens did for sure. Invent Animate, a band that I just started listening to, put out one of the hardest hitting melodic, like deathcore. Like they fully almost went deathcore with this album. It hit a lot harder than what I heard from their other stuff. The riffage was still there in that metalcore sound, but the vocals and just everything else was deathcore-ish. Nothing, nowhere. No, wait. A Moment of Madness ended up having the best electronica tinged album that just got to that I See Stars fits for me. And then Nothing Nowhere put out like the best emo album I've heard in a long time. A guy that grew up in that scene and stepped it up compared to what other crossover artists have done, going from a different genre into this heavier stuff. It literally felt like I was back in the early 2000s when I first started listening to like that emo style where it was Hawthorne Heights, The Used. Shallow Truths put out that Memphis Mayfire, The Sinner style. That is very nostalgic to me. And then my top number two was Daisy Jones and the Sits in that 1970s fictional band. It just came out of nowhere and shocked me of how good it sounded and how close to Fleetwood Mac, which Fleetwood Mac is one of my favorite outside of metalcore stuff and outside of pop punk stuff that I listen to, that I've enjoyed. And then my true nostalgia hit, Fall Out Boy, went back to that Folie à Deux sound that I love, which Folie à Deux is like my album of my life. I will go back to it and listen to it all the time. They finally captured close to it. Not completely, still had their new influence styles of Mania, a little bit of American Psycho, American Beauty, but not really. But they had a little bit more of the same rock and roll slash Mania influences in there, but so much for Stardust. Harkening back to Folie à Deux more so than any of their most recent stuff from their return from their hiatus that they did recently, and it just hit me. And I would say my favorite song off of that is the opening track, which I listen to a lot of music, so I need to look it up. I know the album name, and I know how much I love it. Love from the Other Side, and then there are a few other songs. Hold Me Like a Grudge, Heaven, Iowa are the standouts, and then the Kintsugi Kid, 10 Years, and What a Time to Be Alive. All the greatest songs, and then the whole album itself is great.